Please get my mic to work. We have the agenda in front of us. Any changes to the agenda? I should start with acknowledgement there. In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated in the traditional lands of the Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Agenda is in front of us, Councillor Gramlich.
Mike's not working. Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Now it works, sir. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So we've got 3 sets of meeting minutes there, starting on page 3 in our package. The ones from December 5th. Any issues, Councillor Ward?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting of council December 5th, 2022 as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, we've got the minutes on page 5 in our package from December 6th, the regular meeting. Councillor Hughes.
I move that we accept the minutes from the regular meeting on December 6th, 2022.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, we've got committee of the whole from December 13th on page 8. Councillor Adams, do I see you go make a motion?
Move that the committee of the whole meeting of council December 13th, 2022 be accepted as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. So we'll jump into question period. CEO, anything you want to bring up?
No, but I'm available for questions.
Okay, any questions from council? As I see none, we will jump into reports of new business and page 20 in our package.
Okay, the purpose of this report is to provide an overview of a potential incentive program to encourage Voyant subscriptions among residents for review and consideration. Background: the council has directed administration to increase its communication efforts with town residents so that they are informed on town issues that are important to them. As such, the town of Slave Lake introduced a new communication tool to town residents, Voyant, on August 22nd, 2022. Purpose of this tool is to provide residents with accurate and relevant information on important town issues in a timely manner. It allows the town to send updates directly to residents through SMS text message and email so that residents can receive important information and updates immediately. To date, resident subscriptions have been limited. To encourage additional subscribers, the town introduced a prize draw with a prize value of $350 on October 21st, 2022 for all residents that subscribe to the Voyant service. The following is a summary of the subscriptions to date. So between the introduction in the summer of 2022 and when we introduced the prize draw, we had 301 subscribers. Between the introduction of the prize draw in October and last week, we had 404 subscribers. The prize draw was conducted just before Christmas. We only had about 1 or 2 subscribers over the holiday period. The introduction of a prize draw increased subscribers by 103, approximately a third increase. Recognizing the importance of Voyant as a communication tool, administration has been tasked with providing additional incentive options for consideration to encourage more subscribers. So the options we've put forward in front of you today, administration is proposing an incentive program that provides residents with a substantial rebate on their utility accounts. If a subscribed resident does not have a utility account with the town, a one-time cash payment will be offered to winners in lieu. Cash cannot be accepted by a winner in lieu of a utility rebate if they are a utility account holder. So essentially, if they're a utility account holder, they have to accept the rebate. The following are the 2 options for prize distribution. Option 1 is 1 grand prize winner valued at a $2,000 rebate. Option 2 are 3 prize winners with a first place valuation of $1,000, second place $600, and third place $400. Winners would be notified directly through the Voyant system. All residents subscribed to the Voyant service would be eligible for the prize draw with the exception of town staff and previous prize winners. Resource impacts is approximately a $2,000 budget impact with potential additional $300 to $500 if an advertisement is purchased in the Lakeside Leader. The communication strategy: prize draw would be announced on social media, Voyant, and website. Additionally, for consideration is a half-page color advertisement that could be purchased for the Lakeside Leader. Relation to strategic planning, part of the communications is a focus on proactive engagement and communication with residents. So this will ensure that residents receive accurate and relevant information in a timely manner. The recommendation to council is to task administration to proceed with the Voyant subscription incentive program option 2. This option offers residents 3 chances to win instead of 1, which will likely encourage more new subscribers. The recommended motion is to move that council task administration proceed with Voyant subscription incentive option 2.
Discussion, Councillor Adams.
Out of curiosity, are we also not only entertaining the idea of advertising in the paper, but are you also looking at paid advertising on the social media, not just a post?
Yeah, that can absolutely be for consideration, Councillor Adams. We haven't considered it in this report, but we can consider it moving forward.
Other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Councillor Ward.
I personally like it. I think that's incentive enough. I know this is a tool that we wanted to get behind for communication purposes. So I think instead of giving up per se on the 400 subscribers, I think that there needs to be a push ahead, and it needs to be of something, you know, worthy of people's time to do that. I did like Councillor Adams' comment about some paid advertising on Facebook. I think we could potentially split some of that. There was a bit of an advertising budget there. I think you could do some with on print, and then you could move the rest to some boosted posts or something like that. Because you can obviously set your range to Slave Lake and get some residents in there. But I think it's a great idea, and I think if we're gonna communicate that that's the way that we want to reach our residents, because Facebook's very hard to monitor and not everyone gets the information they need. I think it's a great idea.
Other questions, comments? A motion, Councillor Brandel.
I also think it's a great idea, and I will make a motion.
Go for it.
Move the council task administration to proceed with Voyant subscription incentive option 2.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so let's jump into proposed changes to commercial advertising bylaw on page 23 in our package.
Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to prevent proposed changes to the current commercial advertising policy and digital advertising rates for both the facility signs and community and outdoor community signs based on feedback received from council in December of 2022. This report builds directly off the report presented to council on December 13th, apologies for the typo, and presents proposed advertising rates based on feedback from council. The current advertising rates for digital advertising are based on 2 classes of potential advertisers, nonprofit and third party, and 2 classes of potential advertising media, static and video, with discounts provided at irregular intervals. These irregular intervals have caused confusion in the past with organizing longer advertising campaigns, as there is not a consistent weekly rate. Administration presented proposed changes as well as commercial advertising policy on December 13th. During that meeting, council expressed concern that the new proposed rates were too aggressive and would deter potential advertisers. This report provides a range of reduced pricing options still within current market conditions for review and consideration by council. Advertising rates for the MRC are covered under bylaw number 04/2022. And the proposed, and so moving to discussion. So these rates are based on all the same assumptions that were presented in December, so I'm not going to go over those. But I will direct your attention to the revised rates under Schedule A. In the first column, you will see the rate we proposed last month in December. And in the second column, you will see the proposed rate, revised proposed rate based on your feedback as a range. So the current range, for example, a weekly rate of $75 to $125 for third party, and a weekly rate of $15 to $30 for not-for-profit for the community outdoor signs. So what's before you right now is a range. Once again, based on current market conditions, these reflect more the lower end based on the feedback received. And so the decision in front of you is to pick a rate within this range or outside of it and amend the bylaws to reflect that change. There's also 2 other topics I wish to discuss. One is the proposed discounting scheme. Once again, this was presented back in December, but to encourage longer advertising campaigns, we can consider offering a discounting scheme of 10% off for the for a quarter, 20% off for a biannual. Once again, apologies for the typo, and 30% for annual. And once again, as presented in December, as it relates to advertising sales, the communications department does not conduct advertising sales. All current advertising campaigns are initiated by the client. If the town wishes to increase revenue from advertising sales, it will need to consider hiring a commission-based salesperson to handle the advertising sales portfolio. To attract a potential salesperson, the town will likely need to offer a commission rate of 25 to 30%. A potential salesperson has already been identified by administration who has expressed interest in the position. The salesperson would also source advertisers for the fixed advertising locations at the MRC. Once again, the MRC advertising rates can be seen in the attached bylaw. So the options in front of you are as council decides on a new weekly advertising rate with or without the proposed discount scheme, and task administration to recruit a commission-based salesperson to manage sales. Option 2 is council decides on a new weekly advertising rate with or without proposed discount scheme, and task administration to manage advertising sales. Option 3 is keep the advertising rates as defined in the current bylaw as attached, and task administration to recruit a commission-based salesperson to manage sales. And option 4, council keeps advertising rates as defined in the current bylaw and task administration to manage advertising sales. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so points of clarity. So ideally, we need to look at Schedule A because you provided a range. We need to actually put numbers
Yeah,
in each.
absolutely.
Okay, so that's the most important part of this. So we would start with that and then we can probably get into some of the motions. So feedback on the proposed rates in Schedule A. So I'll start and say that, first off, I appreciate that last time this came to council, that administration had a strong aggressive plan, but I felt like they were putting in a price point that would lack interest, at least from the business side of stuff anyway. These new rates are definitely less aggressive, and I think gives an opportunity to build something over time and show value, which I think is the most important piece of it. I don't really understand. I'm interested in the commission. I think if we don't have a salesperson that's going to go do this, commission-based salesperson, we are going to fail. So it doesn't matter what the rates we set are. If we don't get a commission-based salesperson, we're literally probably not going to grow anything. So I'm totally in favor of that. I don't understand though how that person targets stuff in the MRC as an example. You talked about static signage and advertising and so on and so forth. So initially it was like, what could our options be in here? I know that at one point, a long time ago, they were talking about they were working with a company that was going to outlay some possible options, and we were supposed to wait and wait and wait. So now I feel like we're at the post-wait time where we're actually going to make some decisions. And so I don't understand how a new person, is there a menu for them to choose from, or they're going to come up with some ideas, or are they just going to advertise what we have and that's it? I guess that's my only thing.
As you know, all of the rates that the town charges have to be included in the bylaw. So you have the rates and the specific items that are included on the community or the MRC sort of side, the community services side, which was passed in 2022. So that's the only menu that's available to our salesmen as it sits right now. And you would have corresponding outdoor signs and digital signs, which is before you tonight. Now, if we wanted to add more items to that MRC menu per se, we would have to do a similar process. So that however those extra items could be, whether they're identified through council or through a committee of the whole session, maybe on those potentials, or the salesman, and whatever the case may be, administration would have to bring those back and have them added to a bylaw and have the 2022 bylaw rescinded and the 2023 bylaw to reflect the new items on the menu and pricing.
Okay.
So as it sits right now, he would or she would only be able to sell what's currently in the bylaw at the rates dictated.
Okay. So the only thing with that is that the direction from administration last time was wait, we're working on something. We're going to look at those different options, and we're going to talk to a salesperson. We're going to figure those things out, and they'll come back and we'll talk about rates more in depth at that point, and we'll talk about options. So now it's like, well, we're not doing that. So I guess
Yeah, I could tell you that we haven't had any to date. Administration, at least under my span, has not had any additional discussions regarding additional menu items for MRC. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but it will be a better conversation to have once we have a salesman in place or a saleswoman in place to get some input in terms of from them. So that could be stage 2 of this process.
So I would recommend that be stage 2, that we talk to that person and pursue that, because I think there are other opportunities there. Which brought up the whole discussion previously. And I actually think there's more opportunities than there is in some of the digital signage that we're really focusing on. So I'll just leave it at that and go from there. As far as rates go, my first thought would be to the other thing I wanted to add is I like the 10, 20, 30% because it's easy administratively. And it's straightforward and easy to communicate versus all these other schemes. We looked at some stuff with recreation uses before, and it feels like it's just like a jumble of stuff that's there.
I'll cut you off for a second.
Go for it.
Is that 10, 20, 30% or is that a typo?
Yeah, Councillor Adams already caught that one.
Sorry.
That's a typo.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll let other people go. Councillor Adams.
I kind of mirror some of your comments, but I'm fine with starting out this way to get our feet wet and actually let the salesman gain some traction before he gets a larger menu, for lack of a better term. What I'd like to see, honestly, is about $100 a week line to start with. And then instead of putting fixed rates also for nonprofits, I'd just as soon say 50% discount for nonprofit and just leave it at that. Keep it simple.
Okay. Other comments, thoughts? Councillor Ferguson.
I'll make some comments here. So thank you for bringing this back. Before, I think it was maybe a little bit much on the aggressive side. I think these are a little more in line with what we'd be able to sell. That being said, I'd be in favor of sticking more to the lower end of the price range. See what the buyback is from the community, from the businesses and various groups. And if there's more interest in the future, we can kind of have that discussion about slowly, incrementally raising them. But that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Okay, Councillor Ward.
If we're looking at Schedule A, I don't think I'm as opposed to the non-profit ratings of the 30, 20, and 40 that were initially posted, just because I think like that's not horrible cost in there. I think that the for-profit on the lower range until we get buy-in on this is, I'm with Bryce on this one. Not much to add there, but realistically, we're sticking to the lower end on it too, just so that we actually get some usage out of it.
Okay, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, so I really like the discounting scheme. I think that will work out really well. I'm just kind of back and forth with my pricing here, trying to make notes on it. I'm still kind of in favor with my earlier comment about keeping the not-for-profits at the lower dollar value. They're the ones that advertise now, and they're the ones that need support from the town of Slave Lake. So I don't see that being a huge source of revenue and that being the point that we should be picking at to get money from. Just my 2 cents on. So I'd like to keep them at the lower rate, but I think the third party or for-profit business, maybe somewhere around kind of even the $80 mark or something like that. So again, kind of same to echo as Councillor Ferguson and Ward, keeping things on the lower end here to see where we can go, and then we can always revisit.
Okay. Other comments? Yeah, I don't specifically want to target non-for-profits or go on the back of them either, but there is a thing where there's only so much space and time and whatever that you can fill in there. So we're charging a third-party business here, a for-profit one, $100, for example, in the first one, right? You're doing a community outdoor sign. This would be the digital one. Your weekly rate's $100, and we're going to charge non-for-profit 15. We could fill up all of our spot with $15 ones. We might as well just not even have a for-profit one. And away you go. So the idea of doing this is that it creates some revenue generation. We get some word out. Like part of it is community communication, but part of it is that we are looking for ways as a community there to create revenue so that we can help all taxpayers. And And this is way to do it. So I would lean more towards Counselor Adams' part of like a 50% reduction or even a little bit more, but I think to have a for-profit pay 100 and the other ones pay 15, geez, I will not take anything. And then at that point, you know, as we just fill it up, it's gonna fill up with all those ones that there's only so many spots.
Yeah, I think my point too is not to target, like not necessarily targeting not for profit, but to be honest, like you can't buy lunch at McDonald's for $15.
Totally.
So when we're looking at limited advertising space, then, you know, I don't think the stretch to 30 or 22 or 25 for some of those revised weekly rates is necessarily such a huge jump. There is something to be said of capacity as well. We have to have availability for a mix, I would say, of both commercial and nonprofit advertising on the sign that would be effective, so.
You know,
That's kind of my thought there.
just a note, administration could always bring back a policy as it relates to advertising that limits so many spots for. Might be a way to safeguard. You know, like, let's see, if there's, can't remember, you say there's 6 per minute.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
So if you have 6 per minute, you could say, you know, 1 or 2 of those spots are designated for nonprofit. And the other 4 for profit. That could be a policy that would dictate or help police and make sure that there's a balance there. Doesn't necessarily have to be reflected in the bylaw because the bylaws are specific to the rates, but there is a mechanism. Should we start to see that that's a problem, that we're getting inundated with nonprofit ads at the expense of third-party ads, then we can always address that internally.
Go for
I
it.
think the nonprofit stuff will be when they're having an event or something going. I don't think it'll be like company X who wants to advertise yearly. This will be very, hey, it's this month and we have this thing going on. So I don't think nonprofit's gonna eat it up. It's gonna be
I know.
spontaneous when they need it. It's not gonna be, we're buying it for a year at $15.
Okay. Sorry, Counselor Adams.
Just one that I was wondering here, when I was reading this, I was trying to wrap my head around exactly how many exposures are we getting per day? Is someone getting, or per hour? I know you're saying 6 spots per minute. But are we selling 800 spots in a day or 8?
No, so under that example, so if we're selling, we typically base on a 1-minute cycle. So it would be selling 6 advertisements at 10 seconds. You could push that as much to 90 seconds. And have 9 potential advertisers, but that's as much as I would suggest because you're going to get most of your views at the Main Street intersection when people are stopped, right? And so you're only at a light for a minute or 2 and then you're on your way. So you wouldn't want to.
So we'd only have 6 advertisers?
Just on the outdoor digital signs, 6 to 9. Running on a 10-second loop.
So you're coming, so you as a business, then I'm getting advertising every single minute?
Yes.
That's
Or every 90 seconds.
I think it's still up for, I mean, there's still options for us to.
There's still flexibility in the number of advertisers. Again,
You know,
but
that
that's-
hasn't necessarily been defined
Yeah.
specifically in terms
So
of what's
I
the
would-
total sale, right? Because
okay. So
it could be 50 in a day, it could be 100, it could be.
I'll come back to that. Well, I guess we kind of need to define that because then it's a better idea for what we price stuff at if we know what we're doing. Like if you're getting an advertising every single minute of every day, that's incredible advertising, right? Like I would recommend that, you know, you come up. Like I would at least times that by 5 for any business, you know, for profit to say you're in there once every 5 minutes. I think that's more than enough. And there's lots of spots there for us to target some of that stuff, but so I would encourage us to expand that from 6 to, you know, 50.
There's flexibility there for sure.
Okay, so I'm just gonna throw out some random numbers. So Councilor Adams talked about 100 in there as the weekly rate. I'm a guy that I honestly truly believe that numbers make a difference, and so like I would price it at 95 and not at 100. And so the non-for-profit rate, I still like the 50%. Either that or I'd go on the high end of what's here. You know, if we're doing one at 95 and the other one at $30, I still think that That's super affordable. On the facility indoor signs. So sorry, then when you're looking at the monthly range, ideally, you've already got the 10 and 20, 30% built in, right? So we don't even have to look at the monthly. We just need to look at the weekly and that's it, correct?
Just look at the weekly. The discounting scheme is not built into this.
Okay, so 90, I would look at the weekly, I'd go 95. I would do 50% on non-for-profit, third-party business for indoor signs. So this is the one I don't understand. So like I'm Boston Pizza and I want to stick an indoor sign in the rink and it's going to cost me $50 a week.
No, so the indoor signs mean the TVs.
So TV digital
Yeah,
signs. Okay.
digitals. Yeah, this
Okay.
is all digital advertising. Yeah. So those are the 4 TVs in the MRC.
Okay. So on that, then, yeah, I would say somewhere in that, like, do it at $45 or $50 or somewhere in there, like staying under. I'd rather do 49 than 50 any time of the week. And then the third party one for for all signs, then theoretically you're getting a discount if you're just doing them all. Maybe it's if we add the two, we got 95 and 45 is basically 150. So the deal, so like a 129. So
129.
yeah, because then you have like a $20 discount for doing both of it or whatever else, and kind of go from there.
Okay.
So
If I understood you correctly, Mayor, you want a weekly rate for third-party business at $95, and then you want to propose a 50% discount for not-for-profit. Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay. For the facility indoor TVs, you want a weekly rate of $45 for third-party. And what would you like for the not-for-profit? 50% of the 45?
yeah.
Okay. And then ditto for the all signs, 129 and then 50%.
So then there's a little bit of a discount for doing both or whatever else. I think those are numbers that, might attract people there. And, the goal here would be that we can increase our rates because we've got so many people interested in this, then we go from there versus pricing it at it'd almost be introductory pricing to see how things go and get the buy-in before we, because traditionally the town of Slave Lake, when we do advertising, once we hook them in, they don't seem to go anywhere. So then do the increases after that if it's warranted. Councillor Adams.
I think from my side of things, looking at this, the biggest thing that would determine whether or not a business should advertise in this is the amount of times you're getting exposure. The cost, I think, I really don't care if it's $129 for every 10 seconds and I get it once every minute. That's more important to me than getting it every 12. You know what I mean? So to get exposure down the road and to increase profit, it's not so much about changing the rate, it'd be more about reducing the frequency.
That's what I wanted to comment. If it's once every minute, you only have 6 users. We know exactly how much money we're making.
$28,000.
Yeah, you're gonna need to decrease that because it's gonna get eaten up that buy it, right? And when I buy it and it says you're getting that, once you change it, but now I'm coming back to the town saying, well, no, now I'm not on there as frequent, right? Like we got to lock this in right now.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's as big of a deal. I think.
And I mean, ideally, we would have to give a minimum, right? A guaranteed sort of minimum with the idea of what the potential total sale would be. If we had, let's say, 100 people or 100 ad spots that were running through any one of these devices, but we only actually sold 20, well, you're going to be in the benefit of it, right? But we guarantee whatever that cycle is of, 1 out of 100 sort of. Yeah.
So I would say build on a 10-minute cycle and you'd be in there, you'd advertise it as 6 times an hour.
Yeah.
You're in there every.
So on a
every
10-minute
10
cycle
minutes.
would be 60 ads roughly. 60 ad spots at 6 seconds.
It gives you
each, or
some
10 seconds each.
benefit to sell versus that was sold. Like I think 1 every minute is crazy.
Also, when you're looking at advertising times, just from a marketing perspective, 1 every minute is like 100% oversaturation to the point that you stop
looking at it.
looking at it.
So we can base, well, I mean, we'll bring about a policy back as it relates to advertising, but we can base it on that sort of principle on a 10-minute cycle.
I think
That would be the limit of what's sellable.
I think it gives,
Probably the easiest.
I think it's attractive as a business there, whatever else, say I'm there every 10 minutes. And potentially even more. I'm coming up there multiple times an hour. I think that
Mhm.
that's
With less sales or less spots, yeah,
totally with less spots or whatever else.
that's fair.
Yeah, but it still gives you enough variation in there that you can actually make some money. Totally.
So then the question is, based on 60, do the rates that you explained or indicated, will still reflect the same?
At that, I think.
I would still use those rates that.
You have to address Schedule B as well there.
So these are, these are video advertisements. To date, we haven't had, I don't think we've had a single video advertiser, partially because of software limitations, but also because of hardware limitations on our outdoor signs. So the original rates proposed in December were 250 and 100. And the new range is between 150 and 200 and 50 and 100. Once again, we haven't had any video advertisements to date, so.
Okay, so let's say with hypothetical, we start getting video ones. How
Mhm.
long a video is there maximum they can do?
Yeah, so under the assumptions, number 6, video advertisements for air for a maximum of 30 seconds, and the video ads will not contain sound. Sound.
Yeah, and almost, because on other ones, they're 10 seconds, right?
10 seconds for a static
For a
message.
static ad.
So these ones, they can go up to 30 seconds.
So almost 3 times the screen time.
Yeah, I don't know. I would. It'd be interesting to see how many we actually get. and
Yeah, it's.
Knowing that, maybe you price it at, on the lower end at 149 or something to see what you get and kind of go from there. Totally.
Okay.
I can totally live with that too. Like, otherwise you get too many 30-second ads and all of a sudden you've used up all your space there.
Yeah, it says for a maximum of 30, so we'll do a maximum of 20,
Yeah.
and then an advertised rate of 149, and then once again, the 50% discount.
Yeah.
Although, sorry, just to cycle back here, just because I'm thinking now you've got video spots at a different length and you've got competing with static spots at a different rate.
But you're,
Yeah, but if you have so much space, so 60 spots, and how do you, now if you're saving a set number of spaces or spots for video at 20, that's going to impact the 60 every 10. If you made them all 10-second spots, regardless, I guess it depends what you're advertising.
I don't, realistically, we've never had the problem that we have too many advertisers anyway. So realistically, I'd start with this and see if that's like a thing that we could actually discuss to say, man, we're selling out on all these things all the time. We need to change the policy. Like,
Okay.
let's get to that problem and then discuss it.
Okay.
We're getting a higher price point there. But they're getting more time. It'd be interesting to see how many use it. It'd be interesting to see what a video looks like in there.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, we're not gonna nail.
So what rates, sorry, did you proposing for
149.
149.
I don't,
nonprofit 50%?
or maybe on those we do a little healthier. I don't know. But you should stick with the standard. It's easier. Stick with the standard of 50%. You betcha.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many not-for-profit video advertisers you're going to get because it costs quite a bit to produce a high-quality video ad.
Well, the question is how many high quality videos are we gonna get anyway?
But I mean, it could be as simple as, we're thinking of video in terms of live video or person video, but it could be like as simple as a PowerPoint, sort of, transitioning from one page to another sort of thing, right? Or
Agreed.
2 or 3 pictures streaming across a screen of a new property that's listed or just listed this week or whatever the case, right? So it doesn't, necessarily have to be a live video per se when we're talking about animation here.
Okay.
Could be
Well,
more
I
simple.
firmly believe 100% that we won't get this perfect the first time, but let's start there and try it out and see what kind of interest we go and what kind of feedback we get and kind of go from there.
So are we all in agreement for those rates then to be
Okay,
included
so
in the
that's my
bylaw?
proposal. So ideally, this kind of been an open discussion thing here versus a formal thing. Other feedback, like what do you guys think of those rates?
It makes sense.
Councilor Ward.
I like the rates in comparison to other forms of advertising that we've seen, for profit and nonprofit. We've done, from a business perspective, we've done advertising in print, we've done advertising on Facebook, we've done advertising on video. We've done all three, like we've had screen, like things in the clinic, and I think this is a lot more palatable, and especially when we're just getting started. So I'm good with the proposed rates there. And for nonprofit, those rates are cheaper than half of the cost to do Facebook and newsprint stuff as well. So I'm good with those rates.
Okay. Any feedback opposed to them? As I see none, anybody opposed to the 10, 20, 30% for quarter biannual and annual? Everybody's okay with the 50% for non-for-profit? Okay, so essentially then we would need. So we're basically amending these on the fly, but we can still do our motions for 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Okay. So I'd entertain a motion for first reading. Councillor Adams.
I move that council approves new digital advertising rates as discussed and task administration with the recruitment of a commission-based salesperson to manage the advertising sales. If I'm reading the right one.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the bylaw ones. Okay, any discussion on that? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. So now the bylaw itself there, you're going to bring it back again, or you want us to prove that right now? Okay, okay. Sounds good. Okay, thanks, Jason. Let's jump into snow removal, verbal discussion. So I'll start there by saying, Calvin, appreciate you coming today. And so there's been a lot of feedback from our residents and questions amongst council there about snow removal, how things are going, what's working, what's not working. And so then we did want to have a bit of a public discussion about that. So there's no report prepared. This is just meant to be a bit of discussion for communication purposes, so we all understand what's working and what's not working. I essentially too, we've tried a trial there today that maybe we'll talk about that towards the end, about what worked and what didn't work there. But Calvin, why don't you tell us what the last few weeks has been like?
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll rip off the Band-Aid right off the bat. Are we behind? Yeah, we're behind. We're behind a few days. Could have we done better? Yes, we could have done better. We have a lot of struggles. We have 3 brand new equipment operators. One of them's never even sat in a piece of equipment. So there's only 2 of the senior operators. So they're out in the middle of the street. We've got a lot of hurdles out in the middle of the street. I just listed a whole bunch of obstacles that we deal with on a regular basis when those big equipment is running down the streets. There's the traffic. We've got a ton of traffic all day long, every day. We've got parked cars, we got pedestrians, we got manholes in the streets that no matter how many manholes we fix in a summertime, the frost comes and pokes manholes up. They just have to be up about that much, and the graders and the loaders and stuff like that snag them. It's hard on equipment, everything like that. We have valves in the street. When we're piling snow, we have fire hydrants that we have to worry about. We have electrical boxes, TELUS boxes, ATCO boxes, signs, mailboxes. Like the list just goes on and on and on. So the training that's involved in training 3 guys, 3 of our 5-person crew is incredible. And it's very intimidating for those guys, very stressful. At the end of a shift, they are literally wore out, like emotionally, stressed out, like it is a lot. And I can say that because I've been there. I spent many years out in the patch versus in town. I was a really good operator out in the patch. I come to town. Wow, what a difference. A total difference. So that being said, yeah, we are behind. We are behind a few days. I'll admit it. And the guys are doing the best they can. Over the Christmas holidays, we had some nasty struggles. We had well, out of our whole crew, the whole operations crew, we had 4 people off with COVID. We had you know, the mechanic was sick. I was sick. Our Eng Tech guy was sick. Like this is all right between Christmas and New Year's, but we still got out there and give her all our worth. I'll jump into the things that we have done. So in the course of since it started snowing, the month of December, we really didn't have a whole lot of snow to begin with. December 6th, I think, was the initial, you know, significant amount of snow. We've done collectors and mains 4 times. We've done downtown cleanup 2 times, hauled the piles out 3 times from downtown. We'll be done residential, all of residential tomorrow, we're hoping. We had contract graders out and did the industrial 2 times. We plowed the recycled center 2 times. All the lift stations, we have 5 lift stations out there that we have to, the utility guys have to get to on a daily basis. We have to plow that out too. We've done them 2 times. The lagoons, we plowed out twice. The bulk water and the bulk sewer, we plowed out twice. We did the trails 4 times, helping out community services. And then in the middle of all that, we've got all these other things. We had 2 graves that we had to dig. One wasn't even scheduled, so we had to scramble our crew and dig a grave and backfill. That takes a lot of time. We had a guy that went on a rampage of stolen vehicle, and I don't think he liked signs because he run over 15 signs between us and the MT. Half of them we had to fix. That took a whole day with 2 guys just fixing signs, especially in the wintertime. And to top it all off, we had a major water break. We had a driller come to town and decided to drill through one of our main water breaks, main water lines. So that's all in the course of just the last few weeks. Like these guys are out there, they're going. We work pretty much every day throughout the Christmas holidays, a couple of days off for Christmas, a couple of days off for New Year's. But other than that, these guys have been just giving her. We've got beat up big time on social media. That plays a lot on the guys too. They go to work every day. They want to do the best job they can, and they get beat down every day. It plays on them. It really does. Like I said, should have we done a better job? Yeah. But we're out there, we're giving it our all. We're trying to do the best job we can and with what we got. So plus all that, we had breakdowns. We had the loader 2 times. We had a loader breakdown twice, one on a night shift. We had to leave it out in front of Ellery Cleaners and go and get another loader and struggle through that and get that off the street. One of the graders, the gate broke and we had hydraulic troubles with that. We're still without a gate where it's over at Double B. The gate is, it drops down and cleans the driveways and it carries an incredible amount of snow. Without that gate, the poor guy following behind with the loader has got to clean all the driveways and stuff like that. It's and the guys on the loaders are the green guys. We had problems with the front diff on the other grader, on our new grader. Our skid steer went down and our plow truck went down for a little bit. So yeah, we've struggled. We've struggled big time. We've got a lot done. As far as I'm concerned, the boys really need a pat in the back. They did a really good job for what they got. You know, we've got 2 seasons guys out there. They're trying to teach the juniors as they go, but they're also moving around parked vehicles, running the graders. So while they're operating, they're trying to teach the other guy coming behind them what to do. Dean's out there running around all over the place. Everything from putting signs up to helping the guys teaching them and stuff like that. We haven't put a lot of overtime in. We got about 36 hours overtime. That's not a lot, but they're out there, even at an 8-hour shift, they're done at the end of the day. They really are. We pushed them. And Jeff can attend to it. We pushed him right through the holidays and everything like that. We even had him out there today too. Him and Alex out helping out. So I don't know. We're trying to do things better. We're trying to look at different things. We put a lot of communication out there, social media, Facebook, Voyant, everything like that. We've never had to use snow removal signs. We're using them. I've just got a whole bunch of new ones on order that are a whole lot better. So hopefully it'll make it better. In a nutshell, yeah, that's it. We had, of course, we're talking about our snow blower plan today. It was a cluster.
Let's
But-
look back. Let's look
Okay.
back on that at the end here.
Sure.
Let's talk about our traditional stuff because snow blower is kind of a pilot thing and I don't want to confuse the two of them.
Yep.
So first off, Calvin, I'll say that it is very obvious that you are passionate about your people. And that's the kind of directors that we need looking after our people. And so, we're always going to get beat up on social media. And so there comes a point where you have to decide if that's going to rule your life or not. That being said, it's a question of how loud is that voice? And so over the last week or two, we definitely had some loudness there coming from a variety of things. So I think those are opportunities as an organization that we look at and say, okay, like, where's that coming from? Why is it coming? And what can we do differently? And so I'll start by saying that, I don't think we should ever be scared to tell a story. And our problem is when we're not telling a story, people are making up their own. And so I appreciate that we're not saying that, hey, this is how it always is. I don't know what everyone's problem was. I think from being the mayor of the town, I can tell you from sitting here for 10 years, I felt like we were taking longer than we normally did. And I felt like our attention to detail was a little sloppier than we had in the past. That being said, when we have 3 new people out there, literally, 60% of your crew is brand new, you're going to see that. So I don't think that's a bad thing to tell people that we've hired some new people, we're doing some training, and things are going to take a little bit longer and go out there. And we start talking about some equipment breakdowns. We had some illnesses. I think people are more forgiving when they know what's going on. And part of our job, I don't think it's operations. I don't think it's the operator's job to communicate, but it is operations and administrations and CAOs and politicians' job to communicate. And so we just all have to be on the same page, which is very difficult to do when it's holidays and things are closed. So, the only thing I would take away from that is the timing for a lot of that probably sucked being over the holiday season. That we need to figure out how do we backfill some of that so the information goes out. And we keep people at bay. And so, I think personally, I appreciate the information because a lot of that stuff I did not know until we sat down and had that conversation here today. And I would say that in the future, my recommendation would be that we get some of that information out there sooner. And I think the voices would be a lot quieter. And for the people there's a lot of people that is their life. They love to go on social media and give their feedback and be experts in everything. And some of them, take that communication that we put out and they help spread it for us by telling because they love being one of the first ones to say, actually, did you know, or whatever else. There's another group that's on a different mission. And I'm not going to talk about that group today, but I would say that, communication to the masses would probably make things easier for all of us, because even just getting us having the same communication is extremely advantageous to administration. On the other, the last note I would add there, then I'll let council jump in there, whatever else. I think signs too help, you know, if we're sitting here and we're talking about spending thousands of dollars to get people to jump into Voyant because not enough people are in Voyant. Don't think that we should be like, well, we use Voyant, so how come everyone's not listening to what we're saying? We have that gap anyway. So I think getting the signs out on the streets and having those pieces out there, I think help. You know, and those regular updates, you know, having communications, talking to you in operations on a regular basis to say, this is what we're doing this morning. There's another something that goes out at the end of the day to say, this is what our focus is tomorrow. This is what we got done, or this is whatever, this was the challenges that we ran into. You know, I think a more regular update of that would make everybody's life a little bit easier because we all have the same information as well. So my 2 cents of that, and then I'll open it up to the rest of council. So 2 cents or like $8, probably $8, right? Okay. Questions, comments from council? Anything to add? Councilor Ward?
I was just gonna agree with Tyler on the communication front. I think sometimes council can be operations biggest advocate if we actually know what's going on. So when we don't know what's going on and we drive the same roads everyone else in town does, yeah, there's some things that were missed, and yeah, it looks behind, and you know, some of us live on priority 4 and you know, live in obviously the residential areas that don't get done as frequently. So it's really hard to come to the defense and be like, hey, you're doing everything you can if we have no idea. So it's a little bit, even if there's communication that can go out internally so that we know, we have a better clue what's going on, because half of these things, there's a long list. It seems like everything that could have gone wrong just about did. And I really feel for the guys out there. And as much as they're getting beat up on social media, we are too. So I think we can do better working as a team to get the proper information out. People will always take it the wrong way, but at least if we know that we've got the information out there, I know I would feel better in being able to be like, hey, here's the deal. Here's why we're a few days behind. Literally everything happened, but that's okay, because most reasonable people will see that. Yeah, and the big thing about the signage is really important. I know last year we asked what one of the biggest barriers to snow removal was, and your crew had indicated signage. So I think if we can find a way to keep that going. I did have a question, because before we talk about the snow blower, how many days do you think it takes under the current snow removal plan to get through everything?
How many days for doing our current?
Yeah. So skip snow blowing, guys are trained, you know what they're doing.
And everything's going good.
It's a good,
How many days does it take us from start to finish? I had in my head that it was like a 7 to 10. I remember it used to take about 3 weeks. Then
Yeah, we're 7 to 10, roughly like that.
Okay.
Just conditional or normal plowing and stuff.
yeah, under the typical operations, the way we are now without snow blower,
Yeah.
7 to 10 days to do all routes,
Including priority 4.
including priority 4.
Unless it snows again.
Unless it snows again. I'm just saying it snowed once, hasn't snowed, doesn't snow for the next 10 days. What's the service thing? And then have we always rotated which quadrant of town gets done on priority 4?
Yep. Yeah, every year we change the rotation. So and it goes clockwise. So we'll start, let's say if we start this year in northwest, next year we start in northeast, and then so forth. We do it clockwise. So
I thought you rotate every snowfall.
we try to, we have the garbage. That's another thing that we have to follow the garbage too. Garbage day, when all the totes are out in the street. So sometimes we shift.
Fair enough.
All depends when it snows, sort of deal, eh? So we try to alternate all the time. We used to always start in the northwest. And every time it snowed, every year we started in the northwest. Well, and that wasn't unfair to the rest of the people. So we started alternating. We try to every year we try to start in a different quadrant, which we're very good at that. Because Dean marks it on the calendar. We started in the northwest this year. Next year we start in the northeast. And then every time we go to the rotation, we like to try and just keep turning it.
Okay.
And like I said, our biggest hurdle with the rotation is the garbage schedule. So.
Okay. Other questions, comments, Councillor Graham?
Just to go off what Councilor Ward was saying, it was, your issue was the vehicles on the roads, not the signage. So the signage was suggested so people wouldn't park on the road, so they'd have some heads up with that. So have we been putting the signs out and is it working? Or is there more that we could do administratively to let people know Southeast is getting done Wednesday, get your vehicles off the road? Cause I got caught up. I didn't know anyone was coming and I ran out and moved my truck and it was good, but it was over the holidays. So there's a number of vehicles on the road, right? And you guys have to go around them, which is harder. So is there something we could do better administratively to let people know when we're coming?
Yeah, like I said, I just ordered a whole bunch of signs that'll have tabs that we can remove. That'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can put whatever day. We'll put them out beforehand, and lots more signs. We're just using a generic snow removal in progress sign right now. So these will be highly visible. They say no parking, snow removal, and the date.
And we'll do, so we'll probably put them out the day before.
Oh, we're gonna put them out probably a couple days
And
before.
you think that, I think it was discussed, I don't know if you were there, Calvin, but we were talking about maybe, I think it was City of Edmonton is towing vehicles around the corner or something. It's no charge, but we're just dragging them out of the way if you don't move them. Is that something we should be looking into to help you guys out or not? yet?
Well, we did do that one year.
Okay, you
It was,
remember this then? You were there for this
It
conversation?
was a nightmare.
Okay,
It was a nightmare. So I think we're gonna have a lot more signs out there. We're running with kind of a bare minimum right now, but we're gonna have two different type of signs. One will say no parking and have the date, and then yes, the other ones will be like enforcement signs, no parking, such and such date, and vehicles will be towed. Then that gives us, we don't want to tow. That's the furthest thing from our mind. Nobody wants to come home and see their vehicle towed and impounded and stuff like that. We would rather work around a vehicle than to tow it.
you find it pretty random? It's just like, hey, I missed it, or is it like repeat offenders where a vehicle's been parked there all winter and it's really screwing us up?
We do have a few of those that they are parked for a good length of time and stuff
In
like that.
fact, we towed one today for that exact reason.
Okay, so
Yeah, we did.
you guys are on that, you're getting those guys out of the way, the guys that haven't moved for 3 months.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
correct.
ask if we're able to ticket and tow.
I don't know what the result was, but bylaw was dealing with it or was
Okay, so
requested
there
to come
is
deal
a-
with it. So
There is,
A mechanism?
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you know, back to communication, signs are definitely will help, but it's definitely an old school sort of process. The best case would have been Voyant. You know, if in a best case scenario, that entire neighborhood was on Voyant, they would receive a message specifically stating to their phone that would be popping right up on their screen, right? Doesn't have to go through a feed. They don't have to thumb through Facebook to see it or any other social media. It goes right to their phone to those residents that are applicable.
Yeah.
so I think our communication maybe.
Yeah,
needs-
or a landline or an email. I mean, those are direct communications to that individual.
I think.
And that should be the mechanism.
I think maybe on Facebook, because we do get a lot of comments on Facebook on the Town of Slave Lake page. Maybe that needs to be some of the responses. Saying, I didn't know about this, or I hope people move their cars. Well, hey, you sign up for Voyant, you can get a landline or an email or a text that says, hey, when snow removal is. So it's on you to take that step because maybe people aren't sure how to use it, but if that's our best effort, I think we kind of have to hit people over the head with it, so to speak.
I guess.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna say the same thing that Frankie just said about using Voyant on Facebook and maybe making sure we have those links on there constantly when people are asking those questions. But just to backtrack, I appreciate you letting us know all the hurdles you guys face, Cal. Communication and signage were two huge things that I had written down. I think we've already covered those. I did want to say two very positive things for you to take back to the guys. I've had good comments and thought myself that the downtown snow removal has been really great. And on days when I'm driving to work and I think, oh, I wonder if that huge pile of snow is there, it's been gone. So I do have to say that I think that that's been going fairly well this season as far as I'm concerned and my own opinion on it. And another one is I did have a resident let me know that their priority 4 was done the other day and they had a whole bunch of snow piled in their walkway and it was just like impossible for them to get through. And that they called operations and there was a loader within 30 minutes that cleared their walk and they were very impressed with that. So as a positive spin for you guys, those things were really nice to hear. I do have a couple little questions for you. Out of curiosity, what do we do in terms of sanding as well? Because it is still fairly icy conditions. I know sometimes depending on the conditions, it doesn't necessarily take. Can you just elaborate on how often we sand and what our procedures are for that?
So the sand truck is out every day.
Okay,
It does a morning run first thing in the morning and then usually does another run about noon time. And then, well, when we're up to staff, we're one guy short right now, but if we were right up to staff, then that sand truck would be going around all day long. But it is out every single day, including Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve. He was sanding.
and is it on down Main Street, the main drags? Like, is that typically the target first off?
We pretty much all the collectors and mains
Collectors
is
and
what,
mains. Okay,
and emergencies. Yeah,
okay.
So priority 1, 2, and 3.
yeah.
So
And it
every
just
day
keeps-
the sander is out.
And it just keeps going round and around and around and around and around.
Okay.
That tags intersection, that one's a hot one, we call it, and we could pepper that up. We call it pepper.
Yeah.
We could pepper it up 5, 6 times a day.
I don't know what it
Okay.
is, man, but in the last couple of days, I have literally almost fishtailed 3 times on Caribou Trail, right in front of like slave safety in there.
Yeah, there definitely
what the-
seems to be
There's
some really
a,
icy
there's a little,
spots.
little bit of rut there. Yeah, I know, I've hit that myself.
Okay.
Just like go there. Some
Yeah.
lady the other day to 180 right in the middle of the road. There was nobody coming, so thank God it was whatever, but it was just, if there was a section that I was like, hey, I don't know what's different there, because I've driven it lots every other year, but it's kind of crazy in that spot at the moment.
There's a
Okay.
couple of spots like
Personal-
that.
Personal observation.
Okay,
The temperature has a lot to do with the slipperiness. Soon as it warms up, it gets slippery.
right.
When it gets cold, then the salt doesn't work and sand doesn't work. It gets blown off. It's windy. It's a crapshoot all the time.
Right.
We just keep hammering it, hammering.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, also was curious about the railroad crossing. That has been a really bad one on Third Street. I understand that is not our thing to deal with. However, have we sent out communication to CN
Yes.
about it?
yes, we've, Dean's, now, we used to be able to phone a guy. Now there's nobody to phone.
They took away the phone a guy option.
Mhm.
Okay,
Put in an email.
Got
So
it.
Put in an email and it goes right, they have a selection, they have accidents or derailments or whatever, and snow removal. Snow removal is one of the section. Dean has been just hammering that email. I did see them in town the other day and they cleaned the switches over along the second there. I thought, good, they're gonna do our railroad crossings, and
yeah,
they blew out of town and never even touched them.
okay.
That was after two emails to them. We have no problem going in and cleaning it. We've got to stay a certain amount, I think it's like 5 meters away from the tracks. So if we get caught in there, we could be fined big time. They have their own CN police and stuff like that. They send us out a notice every year
Right.
and they will slap her. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Sorry, did you want to pipe in on that? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. So is there, is that only accessible by the town to lodge these complaints, or can citizens complain to CN saying clear these?
So they can.
Oh, yeah.
They can
Because
and have been as well.
Yep.
Okay,
where do they go for that?
That goes to that same email thing.
No, but.
Oh,
where
to
do
get the
they go?
email?
yeah.
Have Dean post it.
So I was actually gonna go there after this question,
Right.
was almost like, would it be in our benefit to send out maybe a Q&A here now that we're mid-season again in an effort to communicate? And maybe one of the items could be, the railroad tracks, and maybe we could encourage residents to email or do our own, type of advocacy in that regard.
Yep.
People do like to complain about that one as well. And while it's nothing we can do, maybe that is something small we can do in an effort to remedy that. Just a thought. My last question was about fire hydrants. So when they get covered by the snow, is it then the town's job to go back and kind of remove the snow buildup around that?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
is there a certain time limit on that, or do you encourage residents to call if they have a fire hydrant in their yard? Like, what is the protocol for that?
We usually know when we bury a hydrant.
Okay,
But by all means, if we missed one or something like that, what we do is we go balls to the walls out plowing, and we get a few that do get full. And
Okay.
then Dean will send somebody out and just go, hey, you're gonna go on and clean hydrants today. They'll just
Okay.
go all over the place and dig out the hydrants. The fire department also talked to Alex, and Alex volunteered anytime they have a buried one, he'll get his guys go out and help shovel them, or he doesn't want to get his equipment too close to them, but they'll go manually shovel them.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if there's a buried hydrant, it happens. It's a fact of life. It happens when these guys got a plow that's this big and like that, and they're rolling snow. It happens pretty easy.
okay,
They try to look out, and that's what I say with all this jewelry, we call it. It's jewelry on the street, mailboxes and pedestals and hydrants, and then just like this is.
Yeah,
we got no
never ending.
place. Yeah,
Okay.
it's.
one more thing I did have, sorry, my last one, I promise. So for instance, say I'm priority 3 and 4, like 10th Ave and 10A, let's say. When you go down and grade them, do we, like, typically he does all the grader work and then the driveways kind of all have the windrow, right? Is it typical, like right afterwards, the loader starts going, or what's the protocol for like the sweeping of driveways? And is there a time frame associated with that? That seems to be kind of a popular question, so I'm just curious on that.
Okay, the process is
To be clear, we don't do drugs.
no, we don't do driveways.
Wasn't the loader
Just
removing the
we
windrow?
we carry the
Yes,
windrow
that's what I'm
across.
saying.
Yeah, but the grader carries the windrow across.
Yeah.
The reason we're using a loader right now is because we've got a grader that's got the windrow, we've got the wing
The
broken.
gate that's damaged.
So I just want to make sure that council's
Okay.
all on the same page here, that if they're thinking that the loader falls around every grader here and cleans every driveway.
That's kind of my question,
We
yeah.
got out of that process by using the.
Yeah.
By using the wing,
Gate
the gate, sorry.
Okay, but the gate's been broken.
on the one grader, yes.
One.
Yeah,
So we had.
Doesn't leave the windrow pile in residents' driveways.
It will.
It will?
oh, it will, because there's no way of stopping it rolling off the end of the blade. So our one loader has been working double time to keep up to that one. Normally, what the loaders do, they come in and scrape the intersections. So they
Okay.
clean all the intersections. They say we got a 4-way intersections, they'll go back probably about from me to you. And they'll bring all that snow, put it where they're supposed to put it.
Right.
So that way the grader doesn't have to turn and try and cut around the radius of the intersection. So grader will come in, he'll spud in, go straight down the road. Go around, the loader will clean up this intersection, he'll run up down over there, clean up that intersection. The grader is the workhorse. He does all the bulk of the work. So he goes by the driveway, he gates it, lifts it up, and away he goes. Now,
The reason that we're doing it now is because we've had so much snowfall and this gate thing has been whatever, but to be
Right.
clear, we're not normally gonna have a loader doing the
No.
driveway.
So there has been a delay, right? Because the loader has just got too much, is not able to stay right behind the grader because there are
Okay.
other pieces, and it's a big loader. And there we're talking about small driveways.
Yes,
So
completely.
it's like, navigating an elephant through a dog gate, like it's big. So it takes a lot of time and so there were times over the last week where that windrow was left by the damaged grader because there's really no other alternative, or we just wouldn't have the grader on the street and our snow clearing production turns into half of what we're already doing. So we threw the grader out, knowing that it wasn't operating at 100%, that we would use the loader to come behind. But that delay was could have been up to a couple hours, just for that loader to catch up.
Okay. I'm just curious how it works with priority 3 and 4, I guess, because I guess they get so much more of a buildup, so they tend to have a very high windrow in their driveways, right?
Well, there's a lot of
Is
snow,
that
snowpack.
usually the,
If you would have seen, if you did see today, it's the same amount of snow, right? You know, when we piled it from one side to the other, it was, you know, easily 4 or 5 feet wide, 4 feet wide by 3 or 4 feet tall. Like there's a lot of snow on that road. Whether it's all piled into the middle like you saw today, or you
Mhm.
take half of it and pile it to the outside. There's a lot of snow,
But the gate makes a huge difference that
huge.
you end up with a windrow that's like this, and the expectation is
okay,
that residents
not
will
like
deal
this.
with that themselves.
okay,
So I just want to make that clear. We're all having all this communication, so we don't all start.
Well,
Because what we used to do is that we would go around and do that, and we literally had like bobcats and loaders doing everybody's driveway, and it took us so much longer to get through. So we said, hey, let's do the gate thing. Gate is designed to basically do 75% of that windrow. We would have this little pile maybe that went across your driveway, or maybe not, depending on how much snow was going on. But
okay,
as a resident, you dealt with it.
The other problem that we have sometimes, and you know, was as of recent, as of yesterday, is that grader is going down a street. So for a residence that doesn't have a driveway, that just has a sidewalk, let's say going from the front door to the street. Maybe it's even a sidewalk that's only 2 feet or 3 feet wide. That's a very small little gap to try and drop the gate to do a little piece of sidewalk that takes 2 feet and lift up again. So there are some times where that grader, even with a grate, it's difficult. It's one thing for us to grate the driveways, but sometimes individual sidewalks are a real challenge, especially if we're trying to do a fast process or to clear a neighborhood. So there may be instances where a resident has a windrow across a piece of sidewalk that they may have to shovel. Because the amount of time and with a big piece of equipment to clear a 2-foot section is almost unrealistic for a big piece of equipment to do.
yeah, on that note, we're not required to clean walkways.
Right.
Your walkway coming out, the gate is only supposed to be doing just the driveways. But our guys, if they see somebody shoveled their walkway out, they'll try their damnedest to drop the gate and lift it up again. Even though we're not supposed to be doing them, we do see if Buddy's got a drive or a walkway that's never been shoveled, he's getting a windrow right across. Like, what's the sense?
right.
But if somebody goes through the effort of shoveling their walkway right out to the curb, we're gonna try and keep it open. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other ones. Councillor Ferguson.
Cal, so just please pass on my thanks to the department. I think your group has done a really good job given the budget that operations has to work with. I think sometimes the operations department gets beat up, and I don't believe that's fair. They're simply working within the budget and the service levels that are set by council. I've been on council now for 6 years, and it seems every year at some point we have a discussion such as this. People are upset snow clearing wasn't what they thought the standard should be. However, the point is that snow level is cleared according to the service levels we set and budget and approve as a council. So if we want increased frequency and service levels, we have to determine those levels, set those levels, and fund them accordingly. I don't know what the rest of council thinks. I don't know what
all this, calendar is going crazy.
Okay.
already. So I don't know what the rest of council thinks, but I'd be in favor of a report being brought back to us at budget time. Just kind of outlining some costs and options. So what it would take to increase snow level clearing frequency in the wintertime.
Well, currency, increasing it to what?
Increasing frequency. Well, determining what those service levels are, presenting some different options, and it'll come back to what we think is palatable with the public for taxes, because ultimately it comes down to a cost. But like I said, I've been here for 6 years, and every single year, I'm certain every single one of us, our phones were ringing off the hooks. We heard lots of comments that, people were upset about the level of snow clearing, but those levels and that budget is set by council. If we want the snow clearing frequency to improve, we got to fund it accordingly.
Okay. So I'll just add that honestly, my phone in regards to snow removal has been pretty quiet the last couple of years. I actually found a remarkable improvement from when I started to when we started doing the whole, let's stop doing all the driveways. We got things done a little bit faster. Yes, there's a little bit of windrow. You get the odd one there and I'd reach out, they'd send a picture, operations would deal with it really fast. I thought it was great. This year I felt like we were slower than normal. I had a number of questions. I got a lot of those answered tonight. Personally, I'm not one that's looking to dramatically change snow removal. That being said, I'll be interested as we get into our next discussion about snow blowing, what those costs are. I definitely think that I said I was going to leave it, so I'll leave it for now or whatever else. So my only comment would be that, Calvin, the guys are out there working hard and I don't think anybody's saying that they're not. People just aren't satisfied with what we're getting. And so I think it's because I think that happens is when we're not communicating well as a council, as an administration, on what we're doing. And it's not your job solely by yourself to be the shield for operations. That's part of us as well. And I don't mind defending our group as long as I know what I'm defending it for and what my talking points are. So the only takeaway I would say is let the operations crew know that, stay off social media if they're looking for feedback. And from council, keep doing what you're doing. And, as we're running into adversity, let's figure out a plan administratively to get that communication out. So people just want to be updated. People just want to know what's going on. So let's let them know what's going on.
I'll just jump in here for a second while we're talking about service levels. Our service levels, I do have it here, and it says that we initiate snow plowing at 4 inches of hard pack, and that's all right. But when actuality, we are out there long before that. If you take 4 inches of hard packed snow, that's like that. That's about that much snow on the level of fluffy snow. So it's once we start plowing snow, regardless what our service level is, we plow all winter long. We just go round and around and around and around. We don't stop all winter long.
Agreed.
Regardless whether we don't wait for that 4 inches of hard pack. Now this year we had about 4 inches of hard pack out there, eh? Yep. So, but we don't wait for that 4 inches of hard pack. So even if we have 2 inches of hard pack, or it does a little skiff, we'll hit the collectors and mains and stuff like that. So we're out there all year long. Like that's our sole purpose in the wintertime. All these other things that we do, they take second seat to the snow removal. So just a little, so you know.
Fair enough. Any other questions, comments on that? I feel like the wind has went out of our sails on those. So let's talk about pilot program. So, today we went under a pilot program. And we said, hey, so, adding some history here so that we're, anybody watching here and we're all on the same page. Council talked about doing a snow blowing program test in 2 of the quadrants. We talked about doing it this fall. Council passed that. It was going to cost us some money, and there was money in the budget to do that, but we ran into some issues actually securing the equipment to be able to do it, and actually couldn't get a snow blower in time to be able to use it, and said, okay, well, we're not going to be able to do that for this year. That being said, administration decided that hey, we're going to borrow the one from the airport, which we did today because we were able to do that, and we're going to go do a test just to see what this would look like. How could this actually done? What's the finished product? And over time analyze these costs and kind of bring some information back. So I just want to provide that background, but maybe Jeff or Calvin, if you guys want to take it away on what we did today and what worked and what your thoughts were.
So I can speak to it.
Go ahead.
So it was exactly as you brought forward, we had an opportunity. We took a look at the forecast for this week. There was no snow in the forecast, meaning that the airport wouldn't necessarily need their snow blower. So we made the decision to try it out for one of the quadrants. The primary purpose was to see not only how necessarily the process would work, which for anyone that's driven around or wasn't aware, this was kind of a reversal of what we're currently doing. Currently, we're plowing snow to the sides. It's being stored on personal properties or on the side of the road, depending on what we're talking about. Whereas the pilot today was a complete removal of the snow from the road. So instead of windrowing to the outside, the pilot project basically was the parameters were windrowing to the middle and utilizing a front loaded snow blower to load the snow into contractor trucks. So an event like that takes a lot of coordination. It takes, as the town doesn't currently have really any capacity to be hauling significant amounts of snow away. We don't have trucks, we don't have drivers. You have to arrange for contractors. So we had 6 trucks out today.
We had 6 trucks, 2 skid steers, 2 graders, a loader, and a couple of us pickups running around,
And a cat out at the lagoon.
and a cat out of the lagoons.
So it involves trucking the snow. It involves someone managing or pushing as these trucks are all unloading their snow on a continuous basis out at the lagoon, managing that snow. But it moves faster in the sense that you don't have to worry now about gating driveways and all of the, as Cal referred to as the jewelry that's on the outside of the road. We're pulling everything to the middle. So we were able to grade that northwest quadrant in about 2 hours, the entire area. That would have been priority 4s. It took us 2 hours to do, 2 hours to grade. Because we haven't run it before, we didn't start the snow plow, the snow blower until about 2 hours after. We gave the graders a little bit of lead time. In reality, we probably could have started the snow blower at the same time as the graders because the graders were moving very fast and the snow plow or the snow blower is a much slower process to be loading. In any regard, we finished that area in by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I believe, or just before 2. So it was a very fast process. It was very clean. And I think from the feedback that was on social media, just in regards to that, it was very positively received. But it's very labor intensive and it requires some equipment that we currently don't possess within the operations branch. The question may come, you know, can we just use the airports? And on days like this or weeks like this, there's a potential, but they require that and depend on that to maintain that airport, to maintain that runway, to ensure that it's available and clear and for Medivacs and for everything else that's being used. So although this was a one-off sort of trial on the equipment itself, it wouldn't be recommended that we depend on a piece of equipment if we were to pursue this method or mechanism of snow removal, that we would be independent of the airport in terms of the equipment that we're using. In terms of costs, it's too early to see. I mean, we have a rough idea as to what the trucks were costing us and the equipment, but until we see a final invoice, that would be difficult to kind of guess or gauge at this time. But the intention is of administration to prepare something for council consideration, should that be a wish, as a part of budgetary deliberations coming up.
We hauled 90 end dumps full. Okay, 90 end dumps full.
It's a lot of snow.
It's a lot of snow.
Councillor Adams.
Did you find that 6 trucks was not enough or was too many or
Well,
just right?
that's going to be dependent on the quadrant of the town that we're clearing. Because the further away you are from the lagoon, the further that truck has to transport or drive that truck full of snow to the lagoon. Ideally, you would want to have enough trucks as a part of this process so that the snow blower is just continually filling trucks so that they're cycling through. So if we were down in the southwest, which would technically probably be the furthest away from the lagoon, you know, you may need closer to 10 to be efficient and to keep that process going. Even at 6 with the northwest, there were times where the snow blower was idle, right? Meaning that there's a backlog in the process of, and you're transporting across town in the middle of the day with pedestrian traffic, with school traffic, with everything else, and you got to still transport that snow safely. And there's really no other way to get to the lagoon other than a really long way around town, but you still got to get through the residential. So.
Well, and it was a little hard this morning because of that big truck that slipped in a ditch right on.
That didn't help
7th
either for traffic.
And two of our trucks got caught in it and they were down for just about 3/4 of an hour while they hauled the truck out of had a big truck, cut the corner too sharp and down in the ditch he went and blocked us off.
Now, in contrast, if we were doing the northeast section, that roundabout circle would be less. So you might be able to get away with less. But those trucks were always being filled, even with that process, even as one was being filled with the snow blower. The skid steers and loaders were picking up and cleaning up behind the snow blower and filling the other trucks. So they were all being used.
The point is, we didn't have too many.
We didn't have too many, probably not enough.
Okay, Councillor Brandel.
So would it be preferable to do night hauls, just so you don't have to deal with, school buses, traffic, pedestrians?
You could do night hauls, but then the problem now becomes, A, you've got equipment running at night, and 2, you've got people that park on the streets at night that have no other offsite parking. So.
Not to mention, these guys have to be careful. Like, so if you went out and watched, you get this truck and the snow blower are literally inches and stuff apart. You're trying to navigate and keep it off people's driveways and do whatever, and now you got to do it in the dark.
Correct.
And that's assuming that we'd find operators that were looking for night work.
Correct.
We're struggling for operators looking for day work.
And this, like, as I said, this is heavily dependent on outside contractors.
Right. Councilor Graham.
To save some travel time, I don't know if the environment's against this, but can we dump snow in Sunset Place there? Big open land, we own it.
No.
Nothing.
The dump, because the snow that we're removing from the streets is contaminated.
Contaminated.
It's got sand, it's got salt, it's got oil, it's got gas, it's got whatever else that potentially you're gonna find on the street. That sand and that material has to go to the lagoon, has to be in a treatment sort of facility.
So even out at our lagoons, we have to have the land sloped and then we have secondary containment in there. And we have to have it shedding into our secondary containment. If it sheds out into the highway, then they're going to start drilling holes and we'll have the contaminated yard like our public works yard.
Yeah, no. A quick question then on that, because I drove the streets and checked out some of that stuff there and was out there when we were doing the equipment, but I never actually went to Lagoon. So I'm curious there how much, we took 90 end dumps out of there or whatever else. How much capacity is there still over there if we were doing this on a regular basis?
Well, we're going to pile it up again. We had it fresh or one cell. We've got basically 3 cells
Okay.
that we can pile in and we filled up the one cell about 3/4 full.
Okay, so
Today.
there's some additional capacity there, but basically one snowfall, then if we did the entire town would pretty much fill all those.
It would fill it.
And so then if
Now,
we had a second snowfall, then we'd have to find a new spot to put them on.
now, it's just because of the way the lagoons was left. I was gonna take and get a cat and level the whole place out, so we'd have a lot more room. But we do have one big hurdle out there. We got a high pressure gas that runs like this and like that right across the middle of our lagoons. So we could get that gas line moved. And so we can't even travel on that gas line. We want to be, 15 meters each side of the high pressure. So that takes up a big chunk of our lagoons right in the middle of it. So we could do 2 things. We could get it moved at our cost, big bucks, or we could talk to high pressure about moving that. It's it'd probably take a couple of years to get it moved, but it is doable. That is something that I do want to look into. If we did something like that and we were going to have hauling all our snow out there all the time, I would need every available inch out there. So then we would do like an engineered drawing out there. We would have ditches and so forth. And then we could work in tandem with high pressure and get it moved.
Okay,
It's a big pain in my butt over there. It goes right through our middle of our lagoons.
Counselor Hughes.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I know that this method is used in other communities, that's correct. Do they do just this as their only snow removal method, or is it sort of a hybrid idea? I just wanted to kind of
Yeah,
peek
so
into
we
that.
would, you would still have potentially a hybrid sort of model. So you would have this sort of snow removal specifically. I mean, you would definitely use it in your priority fours or your residential areas. But we would also use it in, we would do, when we were doing snow removal, we could use it from our priority ones, twos and threes, especially the material that's piled up to the side. So we would bring them, take those windrows that we've graded, when the fresh snowfall happens, we push it to the side. That maybe is the case for a couple of weeks. So we're still clearing the road. It's still scraped, but paired to the side. When we call it, if we had a snow clearing event like we did today, like the pilot,
Mhm.
that snow would then essentially could be pulled back in and we would be starting to take in some of that road, some of that snow that's been already piled up to the sides already. So we could basically, it's a hybrid approach. You would still maintain your mains and all your priority ones, twos and threes like we are currently right now.
Okay.
And then once it gets to a point where we're calling a removal for snow from the whole town, we would basically do everything.
Because I feel like this process would be a nightmare on Main Street. Right, like with the amount of traffic and stuff you got coming and snow blowing over the side and doing whatever, like.
Well, but to some extent, we're already doing Main Street, right? Like the downtown is already being removed or handled in a process. And even in fact, by utilizing a snow blower as opposed to the big piles and the loader process that we have now would even be much quicker. We would pull it back out into the middle and use a snow blower to drag it into the bins would be faster.
Agreed, but why downtown works now is because we do it at night.
Correct. And you could still continue with the same practice. That
I
we
just
do.
mean to have like, we had 6 trucks out there, the snow blower going or whatever else. And you had vehicles nonstop going down there and having to navigate different edges of the road because we piled this into the middle. It's not like this.
But for the downtown, we bring contractors in for that purpose at nighttime as well. So that's that's already
I get all
happening.
that. I'm just saying if today was Main Street Day. And
Yeah,
had
no, we
pulled
wouldn't
all
do
the-
Main Street on a day like this. We wouldn't do it probably any different than what we're currently doing
The
at
majority,
night.
I'll just jump in here. The majority of Main Street, we could do at night. So we would kind of treat it like downtown. So like from the tracks to Highway 2, we could do that all at night. It'd be the extra night shifts. Pardon me?
So much wider. Cars can go on either side of you when you've got the big ass window.
Yeah, it's just the risk of
We gotta make sure there's zero overspray though.
yeah, but it could be done at night. So it'd just be mean more night shifts.
Okay,
The trade-off for night shift is we do a night shift, well, we don't have anybody the next day. Cause they're houred out. So.
okay, so customer feedback obviously was high today. For people that went through it there that they loved it. The question is physically, can we pull it off on an ongoing basis? And can we afford to do it? And you can afford to do anything because all it takes is money. It's just the political will to raise that kind of in your taxes to be able to do it because it is costing something. Like it's going to cost us something to bring in contractor work to make it happen. So the idea is that we're going to evaluate this process. It's going to come back to council and a report as part of our budgeting process and deliberate and go from there.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Motion to accept Calvin's verbal report as information. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Calvin. I think we learned a ton tonight. Appreciate the feedback. My only thing that I'd say as a takeaway there is please increase that communication between our departments there. So that communication is going out because I think it'll take pressure off of everybody in this room and a lot of people that aren't in this room. Let's jump into correspondence. We got letter here from the Minister of Transportation, just highlighting again the fact that we continue to advocate most recently at Alberta Municipalities conference that we went to in September that we're frustrated with Highway 88. And so the minister comes across in here strongly that they are considering rehabilitation of Highway 88 in the budget process that they're going through right now. In an effort to speed that up, they're also working on getting engineering done and are working to tender that information out and start to move the process along. So while it is not a, hey, yes, we are going to do it, there's an indication that we're going to start spending money on a plan for it and that we will be discussing in a budget, which I think is more progress than we made in the last 6 or 7 years. Talking to myself. So I'll take that as progress. Additionally, we received a letter from the RCMP, one of the things that we've been advocating for. RCMP has been back and forth with us over the last decade about a new building in town. And so more recently in the last year or two, it's been a topic of discussion that they're really saying, hey, you guys need to start budgeting for this. You need a plan for this. We've outlived this space, and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that's been going on is the council's been advocating then to the RCMP to increase service levels if we're going to make that kind of investment. One of the things, there was kind of 3 different pieces that we're really searching for. One of them was to return traffic services to Slave Lake. So for those that aren't familiar, prior to the fire in 2011, we used to have traffic services in town. Right after the fire, they were moved to Westlock because of accommodation issues. And so we had advocated to see that come back. We had advocated for more for a crew unit. Geographically, that made sense. These are the rural crime reduction units. They haven't committed to adding any in the province at this time. But we did want to highlight that in the event that they were, that we would like to see one in this area. Right now, the next closest to us are Grand Prairie and St. Paul. Additionally, we wanted to look at one of the PAC teams. I'm saying that right?
PACT.
Which really is kind of RCMP and the mental health team kind of working together there for crisis response. And so I know that one is coming towards Athabasca. I think it's coming up, but I would love to see something there. So those are kind of the 3 areas that we've been advocating for over approximately the last 18 months. And at our recent meetings at their Alberta Municipalities Association conference in September, they committed to getting back to us at the end of the year. And they took almost every day to do that when they sent out a letter on December 21st that said, hey, we just want you guys to know that we are committing at this point to moving traffic enforcement back to Slave Lake, conditional to us providing space and a building for them. So there'll be some conversations moving forward. I did follow up with an email that I sent to Curtis Zablocki there because it doesn't talk about the other 2 items that we requested. And I'm still waiting through emails from the last 2 days trying to get caught up, but I think
There was a response saying there was no.
okay, I just
there was
wasn't
no
sure that
plan
went to
for us.
everyone, but basically it said that we can't do anything with those at this time. And we'll see where that ends up. Motion to accept correspondence as information. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Mayor's Corner, obviously the big excitement of today was around snow removal. And so we're trying something new, but it will come at a cost. So we need to figure out the value versus that cost and look forward to that discussion. Alberta North Central Alliance had a meeting yesterday. The Councillor Gramlich and I and our CEO attended talking about our strategic plan. And so we did some work on this here late in the fall there. And it was kind of to bring one of the final drafts for consideration. So we had a couple of members that weren't there that were sending it out to them, but excited to see that process moving along. Admin support is a big discussion there about how do we actually get some of this done. But luckily we had a $200,000 grant that we secured to do some of this work. And so we're looking at how do we use some of the grants in there to resource the actions that we want to get done. Also attended an event on the weekend where a number of firefighters from across Northern Alberta were recognized with the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal. And so this is a kind of a prestigious recognition that is, handed down from the Queen as well. And so the Office of the Fire Commissioner helped facilitate it. Two of our own fire staff in town, both Alex and John, were recognized with medals. John at a ceremony previous to this, and Alex on the weekend. So it was great to be there for that. Council will jump into budget again this week. We got an all-day event planned again on Thursday that we're all mentally preparing for. But we are nearing the end of budget discussion. So hopefully, I expect that we will have budget finalized before the end of the month. And I'm not exactly sure what the number is going to be, contrary to popular belief that the town of Stettler has already figured it out for us. Apparently there was an article there that said what our increase was going to be. Additionally, council, in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, has been working on a project behind the scenes to get some flags for both Treaty 8 and Métis Nation in our council chambers as recognition to the important role that both of those organizations play in this region and that we share this region with them. And so there will be a ceremony around that happening here in council chambers next Tuesday at 5 p.m. And so I look forward to that as well. With that, then we do have some closed session stuff to go through. So I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.